Australia is looking to a natural wonderland on its doorstep in the battle to stop catastrophic climate change.
We have the third largest rainforest. We have 7% of the world's biodiversity. And we have so much more we can offer.
Preserving these rainforests is vital to the planet. We're told the way to do that is to turn the carbon in the trees into an asset to be sold as carbon credits.
With a lot of countries and companies promising to go net zero, we've seen an explosion in forest carbon credits, seen as being a triple win. A win for forest-dependent communities, a win for biodiversity, and a win for the climate.
Australian businesses and iconic institutions are opting in.
We bought these carbon credits in good faith.
It's a project that's supposed to prevent deforestation.
But out of sight, in isolated forests, it's a different story. In remote regions of Papua New Guinea, we explore what's really going on. It's an at times perilous journey through flooded rivers, up waterways, across steep mountains, into the heart of the jungle. A month on the ground investigating the carbon traders, where we unearthed shocking claims and revelations.
So the figures were fudged, made up?
Yes, she did.
There is rainforest here, but there's also utter devastation from logging within the carbon credits project area.
The risk is the overall result is more emissions and a worsening of climate change.
It is a form of neocolonialism. That is my opinion.
Our journey starts in Port Moresby. I'm headed to New Ireland, the most northeastern province in PNG. An American company called Knight is running a carbon credit scheme there. And a lot of Australian businesses have bought its carbon credits. To get there, I'll be taking a trip across the Bismarck Sea. Across the water, about 2 hours on this boat, is the first phase of the carbon project. We're heading over to check it out. Anton, good to meet you.
Welcome home.
Thank you. Stephen Long, Four Corners. Yeah, been looking forward to meeting you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the whole village, all the children here to see us. It's an idyllic setting, but it's obvious how tough life is. Many people subsist in poverty, lacking things we take for granted: sanitation, running water, electricity, internet. Knight says it's going to change this. It started out as a logging company that was going to cut down the forests, then shifted to carbon trading.
our validated, verified, and registered generation of carbon credits through scientific process conserve endangered tropical rainforests in Papua New Guinea and have generated historical economic growth and social transformation for the people.
But years after the project began, benefits are thin on the ground.
You can see the people, you can see the mothers, you can tell how we are living at this very moment. I would like to stand on behalf of mothers, families, that we are really starving at this very moment.
Starving?
Yeah. I'm not talking about food, but I'm talking about financial side. I would like to give an example like school fees. That's the main problem.
Knight has so far issued more than 1.3 million carbon credits. They've sold for up to $26 a piece. It refused to tell us how much revenue it's made. What we do know is the people who live here and own the land say they've received 200 PNG kina each, the equivalent of about 80 Australian dollars. And no one we met was happy with that.
How do people feel?
Dorman Gibson is a teacher from the community.
The people here, they are not very happy. They are not happy about the nights. First of all, because of the payment, that's only 200 kina, which is, it's not enough. This is the classroom. It has been bent down. You see all the desks here. All the iron roofs were burnt down here. Cement has been...
Dorman was hoping that the millions Knight promised would build a better school and a better life for the children. She says people's disappointment sometimes plays out in destructive ways.
Sometimes they show their frustrations by getting angry, burning the bushes and whatnot. Some, they take alcohol, using that little bit of money because they say that's only peanuts. 200 kina is not big enough.
Knight says money went to every man, woman and child in a broad local government area on New Ireland under a fair and equitable model devised by the community. But people we met didn't feel that way.
We want a company which will come in to help us to develop our land fairly, not cheating us.
I would describe the Knight project as highly problematic.
Dr. Andrea Babin has spent years researching the carbon trade in PNG. She wrote her PhD on the subject, and since then she's been digging into Knight.
What Knight has done, possibly to curry favour and get additional clans to sign up to be part of an even larger carbon credit project, is they've distributed money sort of far and wide across a whole half of an island. And this has got the actual customary landowners really upset because they are the ones whose land Knight is currently operating on, who are selling carbon credits from the forest that they own, and yet all these surrounding areas are getting money.
A little south of the carbon project is Kite Village, home to leaders of the Kamlapa clan. In PNG, clans and tribes own 97% of the land. The Kamlapa people own land where Knight is currently operating. Anton Tobing and CNL Topin represent some members of the clan.
This is the carbon credit contract which we signed with Knight.
Yep.
3 years ago, they signed a contract with Knight and now regret it.
Why did you sign?
Because I myself don't understand, and I have no legal advice. to advise me whether to sign or not to sign.
And you just heard they're going to give us a whole lot of money.
Yeah. There's no honesty, no accountability in the company.
Lawyer George Akia has taken up their cause. In Port Moresby, he took me through the contract.
And here you will see the clause that Knight will pay Kamloops people 56% of the revenue from the sale of the carbon credits.
And that would imply the gross revenue?
Yes, it will imply the gross revenue.
But the contract is confusing. Another clause refers to net revenue and lets Knight deduct any unusual costs associated with issuing the carbon credits.
It means that Knight has the unfettered discretion to take out whatever cost it wants to and ultimately minimize the payment to the customary landowners.
How would you describe this contract?
It's totally unfair. It's one-sided.
Knight told us it only deducted costs directly related to the certifying, issuing and marketing of the carbon credits.
In Papua New Guinea, land is connected to people. Land is where they make their garden. They survive out of it. They build their house. They associated themselves to land. And for a company like Knight to go to Kamloops and benefit out of their land, which they hold dearly, that's appalling. That's something that boils blood.
As we travel deeper into the rainforest, we come across a shocking scene. This is not what we expected to see. We asked our driver to take us up and show us the pristine rainforest. Now, there is rainforest here, but there's also utter devastation from logging within the Knight carbon credits project area that's meant to be saving the forests from deforestation. This is not villagers harvesting timber, this is commercial logging. What our cameras capture here has up until now been hidden from the world and from businesses that in good faith bought carbon credits from this project or are considering buying them. Knight concedes logging has been going on since June 2020. The logging we see appears to have been authorised by PNG authorities. Andrea Babin believes that if the scale of the logging were to escalate, it could compromise the integrity of the carbon credits.
They do not represent real emissions reductions. They're hot air. They're not worth the paper they're printed on.
Knight is adamant the logging does not affect the integrity of carbon credits already sold, though it will substantially cut the number of credits it can issue in the future. But how many businesses would have bought credits had they known what's been happening on the ground?
I would have thought that the businesses that are buying these credits should be really angry.
The long list of businesses that bought carbon credits from the project includes Australian Mutual Bank, Active Super, the law firms Gilbert and Tobin and Cause Chambers Westgarth, Planet Ark, the global coffee giant Nespresso, and the Sydney Opera House.
They've paid money and they're trying to do the right thing as good corporate citizens, and they're basically been let down.
We wanted an answer to why this is happening. And at the village of Watpi in New Ireland, we found one.
Hello.
I would like to talk on behalf of my people.
Nassan Audi, a community leader, tells us locals signed a contract with a logging company out of frustration with night.
While waiting for night, the landowners, they get another company like a logging operation in our area. So now both of them are operating in our area.
And what did Knight promise you?
They promised us that some of the benefits like schools, church, roads, health centers, housing scheme, they will build houses for the local people. They only pay 200 kina each.
So your people decided to call in the loggers because there wasn't enough benefit coming from Knight?
Yes, because of the delay. They did not fulfill some promises.
It's an unfortunate outcome because few people we meet want to see logging.
They're causing destruction to the physical environment. Whereas for carbon, they don't disturb the land.
So you're happy for Knight Inc. to continue with the project?
Not Knight. We do not want Knights. Most of the people around here, we do not want Knights.
What's happening in New Ireland, it's happening in many other parts of PNG as well. And this is what I'm concerned about, that if carbon trade is a genuine option, then we don't want to contaminate our efforts in that space so that we may be, say, for instance, in the future blacklisted because we allowed this to happen, whereby on the one hand we are claiming to preserve forests, but on the other hand, rampant logging is taking place. That demeans our credibility.
Knight told us it's supporting the provincial government's efforts to stop unwanted logging. It said it's now managed to end 2 cases of logging in its carbon project area. Australian organisations that bought the carbon credits did so under a government program called Climate Active. Climate Active does not do its own due diligence on such projects.
I don't think it's too dramatic to say that it's pretty scandalous.
Polly Hemming used to work for Climate Active, but left disillusioned.
Anyone who is relying on a claim like that to tell their shareholders or their customers, they're making investment and business decisions on the basis of advice that Climate Active is giving them. And for Climate Active to not do the basic due diligence of the projects, I think is pretty outrageous.
A not-for-profit in Washington called Vera gives these rainforest projects the tick of approval, but it doesn't directly examine them either. It relies on third-party auditors and reviews documents they submit.
Vera themselves never go down onto the ground to talk to people, to interview people. They just really, make sure that the documents are all correct and rubber stamp them.
We couldn't find anything in any public documents that talked about the logging going on. In PNG, I meet someone who raises further questions about Knight's carbon credits. Ivy Keeler is a trained forester. She works for an NGO that also has a carbon credit scheme in the region. In the past, she worked for Knight as part of a team surveying the forest to help estimate the carbon in the trees.
The person that was leading us doing the forest inventory was a builder and not a forester. So he doesn't really know the scientific names of the trees. There were some inaccessible areas that we were not able to survey. So when we came back, we were short of data for the credit. So the person that led the timber crews had to make up some of the datas, and he put in his own figures and the names of the trees.
He made it up, he fudged the numbers.
Yes, he did.
Knight says the man who led the inventory was hired for his mapping skills. It denies numbers were deliberately fudged, says the allegations were never raised at the time, and suggests there could have been confusion about inaccessible plots. It concedes errors were made initially, but says they would have been picked up in a detailed audit and verification process. In East New Britain, we track down the chief executive of Knight's local subsidiary.
Ezra Tolliger from Knight.
Yes.
Stephen Long from Four Corners, ABC Television Australia.
Nice to meet you, Stephen. I'm Ezra Tolliger.
Nice to meet you too. We've been across to New Ireland and people are raising concerns about the carbon project Knight is developing there, and
yes,
we'd like to interview you. We'd like to speak to you about it.
No problem.
He said some benefits have been delivered.
Now we have brought in labour kits for the mothers to contribute or help in reducing mortality rates. And at the same time, we're also working on the learning materials for the schools. Every process takes time, but we don't want to blame that. We don't want to take advantage of that. But that's just the way it is. We can't change that. But we are working towards achieving those, and we're just around the corner. It's not wrong, yeah.
I tried to get some clarity from Knight's boss in PNG about the money, but came away confused.
The total sales was 10 million. 56% of that is equivalent to 6.3 million.
10 million kina? It looks like more than that.
Okay. It's whatever number is, all right. Just round it off to 10 million. 6.3 million is 56% of the people. That has gone now.
And yet other documents say that you're only delivering 56% of the net?
Of the gross. I'll correct you right there, brother. It's 56% of the gross. And that is in legal binding that the people...
It's funny how some of your documentation and statements say otherwise.
It is, in fact, net revenue. And as we dig deeper, we find gaps between claims and reality. Knight's marketing material boasts that 47,000 individuals have received benefits. It now concedes it's well under half that number.
So, on appreciation to Steve, this is how we show our customer side of our client society.
This is Stephen Strauss, the founder and head of Knight. Mr. Strauss was going to do an interview, but withdrew citing ill health. He's been involved in a series of failed business ventures in PNG before, in timber, scrap metal, mining, but thinks this one is a winner.
The computer center will give you communication, it'll give you education, and allow you to have access to telemedicine. So we're very pleased to have it here on this spot at this time.
It's fair to say Stephen Strauss has a checkered corporate history. US regulators took civil action against him after he issued a series of false statements which inflated the stock price of a company he ran. A court judgment states Strauss repeatedly and knowingly and/or recklessly defrauded investors by disseminating false and misleading information. About a decade ago, Mr. Strauss was deported from PNG and banned for 2 years. He says he doesn't know why.
Steve Strauss is a very honest man.
Do you know that he was banned by the company's regulator in the United States from promoting penny stocks after making false claims about a previous project?
We've heard about that. We have also done our own due diligence background search on Steve. We've asked him. He has already explained that to us.
The next part of our investigation takes us to Papua New Guinea's remote western province. It's a journey across rugged mountains to a location only accessible by air or by river. The villages that sit astride the mighty Wawoi Falls. The area is home to some of the members of tribes that own a vast forest resource, known as the Kumula Doso.
Thank you so much.
There's a battle for hearts and minds here between Malaysian logging interests and an Australian-based company, Maya Resources.
We first heard of Maya Resources when they were basically trying to establish coal-fired power stations. Certainly coal has been the driving force for them, but they've been exploring for a range of different minerals, including the sand mining, and they've gained some approvals for sand mining.
Maya wants to use these forests to create carbon credits that offset emissions from its own ventures. But the serious money may come from selling carbon credits to the oil and gas industry. Last year, Maya announced a tentative plan to jointly develop PNG carbon credits with the Australian gas industry giant Santos. Santos gave Maya $3 million and 180 days to make progress on gaining landowners' consent. Paul Barker is a leading expert on economic development in PNG.
It surprised many of us, and I think many in the industry, that suddenly Santos had tied in with this company, because it wasn't as if it was an established, highly reputable carbon or green or environmental company.
The potential income is enormous.
There's $2.8 billion US of carbon in those trees. 1.4 billion will be going to the landowners, 800 million will be going to the PNG government. On logging, the landowners will get a tiny fraction of that, 30 times less.
There's no doubt these critical rainforests are under threat, and that what's on offer would deliver far more to the people than logging. But what we hear suggests some of the people don't understand what they're being asked to sign up to. Connie Amula is a supporter of the carbon credits plan, and he signed up after Maya came to Wawoi Falls last year.
They came in Sunday, landed here. They gave us the handouts here, the booklets.
Connie shows me a booklet that Maya's people handed to villagers about the carbon trading proposal. There was meant to be a video too, but they forgot the cord for the projector.
For the second visit, they told the people to sign the consent form to deal with the carbon credits.
Second visit, they wanted people to sign a consent form to having the carbon credit project on your land. Second visit.
Yeah, second visit.
What do you understand by carbon credits?
Carbon credits, I read the book, but I forgot, sorry.
Willie Kade is chairman of a local landowner group. He doesn't understand how carbon schemes work.
They suck the tree. They put a machine to suck the air or the juice of the tree, and then what happens? You tell me.
So that's what you think carbon credit involves, the carbon trade. They suck the oxygen out of the tree.
Oxygen out of the tree, and then what happens to the tree there?
Willie says his group has sided with logging because it's what they know.
I have seen the good and the bad of it already.
Of logging?
Yeah. And then for the carbon trade, I haven't seen the operation of carbon trade. Yeah, I don't trust carbon trade.
We don't have any idea about carbon trading. We have no idea about carbon trading business. That's why we have no idea, never understood properly what was the carbon trade business.
Jimmy Ababo represents members of the Adode tribe who also live in the area. He says Mayor's information booklets were all but useless.
That was not enough because our people here, they have not educated properly. There was no proper spell out. So these booklets, they never read, they just got it and it's in the rubbish bin.
I understand that the booklets were translated into Tok Pisin.
Tok Pisin, it was written in the booklet. So we cannot read. The majority, most of the people here, they cannot read.
People wouldn't understand it.
No, they didn't understand.
Were there any lawyers or people to help you interpret what this meant?
There was no lawyer. In this village, we have no high educated guys.
For decades, Mary Bonney has been a human rights and environment lawyer in PNG. She fears that what's happening with some of the carbon trading is echoing a pattern she's seen time and again with logging and mining.
80% of the total population live in rural areas, and the literacy rate is very low there. PNG is just 60% literate. Right now, my heart cries out that there is nothing protecting these people, and they're dealing directly with the developer. You know, what's there to protect them? The government is not there. You know, an informed person is not there. A lawyer or, you know, somebody professional is not there. So they're not able to assist these people to understand what they're signing up to.
So there's a stark inequality of power.
Yes, it is very, it's not balanced. It's very unfair, actually.
Later in Brisbane, we went to see Mayor Resources and had a talk to the Managing Director about what we found.
If you aren't able to communicate with someone in words and diagrams, what other way do you communicate with people? Verbally, which is what we've been doing. That is the best that one can do. If they still don't understand that process, they will not sign.
People were asked to sign consent forms on the second visit. How can that be adequate?
We present the case to the people. We say, do you want your home preserved? Do you want to make far more money through carbon instead of seeing your area chopped down? And there's a lot of detail that we leave with them. We go away, we come back a number of months later. We've given them the opportunity to digest the information we've presented. We've gone back to them, re-presented and said, is this something you want? Do you want to maintain your homes? And do you want to get far, far more money in carbon versus logging? And the answer was yes. They invited us, not the other way around. We have overwhelming support. Thousands upon thousands of people want to see this because of the benefits.
Mayor used a leading academic expert and experienced consultants to ensure its approach complied with laws requiring the free, prior and informed consent of traditional landowners. But not everyone is satisfied.
It verges on contemptuous that you are making the assumption that you can turn up a second time and people will be ready to sign. It indicates that people were probably signing up to things that they didn't have a full understanding of.
The carbon rush has been happening in the absence of formal legislation to regulate development.
We as a country are not prepared for a situation where a carbon developer comes into our country and goes right down to the community and decides to strike up a deal straight with someone from the community. PNG as a country is not ready for that because there are no guidelines out there right now in terms of regulating voluntary carbon in the country. So as far as I'm concerned, the people don't have a clue.
We will need carbon credits to offset unavoidable emissions. The concern is that carbon credits will facilitate an expansion of fossil fuels that climate scientists say should stay in the ground.
Australia has 114 new gas and coal projects in development currently, and the sheer scale of the emissions from those projects mean that there's probably not going to be enough offsets available domestically, and this is why it's trying to shore up deals with countries like PNG so it has a ready supply of credits available.
In PNG's northern or Oro province, we're at a village on the Managalas Plateau, the largest conservation area in PNG. The tribal dancers are awaiting the arrival of the governor of the province, Gary Juffa. Juffa is a maverick politician, an environmentalist, popular among the rural poor. In the past, he risked his life taking on logging companies. Now he's concerned about the risk of carbon cowboys coming to his province.
There are all types of people coming into this country. Not all of them are coming for good purposes or good reasons. In fact, many of them are coming here to steal, to take, to con and fool people. So my job as your elected leader is to protect you, to make sure that we screen all these people and we only allow those who are genuine to come and work with us.
Juffa is scathing about a global carbon market player from India that's operating in his province.
A company by the name of Kanaka Management Services, which first and foremost got me agitated because the word Kanaka is a derogatory term in my country. You know, it is the equivalent of the N-word. I actually invited one of their representatives to my office, and he sat there with me, and I had a discussion with him, and I could tell that he did not really know what he was talking about.
On a wet morning, we take off for the area where KMS wants to develop a massive carbon credits project. We're travelling to Kira, a small outpost in the mountains of Oro province. The weather begins to clear as we cross Owen Stanley Range. And we fly above some of the steepest, most rugged, most inaccessible terrain you'll find in PNG. KMS claims 85 to 90% of it is under threat from logging. But given the terrain, that seems implausible.
For logging, for instance, or forestry development purposes, it would be almost impossible.
And it seems the deeper we journey into the remote regions, the more dubious the carbon schemes become. KMS made extraordinary claims in its submission seeking to have the project certified.
They were saying basically the threats to these forests came from livestock projects, large-scale ranching. There is no large-scale ranching. Yeah, there are village pigs and chickens and things, but there's no cattle in that area.
It also claimed there are railways, but there were none to see from the air or on the ground.
We don't have any railways in Papua New Guinea. It's beyond the realms of being imaginative. It's somewhat ridiculous.
It's so farcical that it would be funny if it wasn't so serious.
Verra, the standard-setting body for the voluntary carbon market, has declined to register the project as it stands, but KMS can redo the paperwork and resubmit. Last year, KMS won the title of Best Overall Carbon Project Developer, as voted by its peers.
The fact that a company like KMS that came up with such a ludicrous proposal for a forest carbon project, winning the industry's best project developer award says all you need to know about the industry.
I guarantee what you saw on the ground in PNG is being replicated globally, and if there is a proliferation of fraudulent carbon credits circulating in these rapidly growing markets, the risk is that carbon markets are actually driving the catastrophic climate change that we're seeing now.
We sent KMS a list of questions, but it did not reply. Back in Australia, we told some of the businesses that bought carbon credits from the first project we visited, Knight's New Island venture, about the logging we uncovered.
Sam.
Yes. Hi, Stephen.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
Thanks
you.
for making the time
No worries.
available.
Yeah, my pleasure. Come through.
Sam Nicholas is Chief Operating Officer at the law firm Gilbert & Tobin. It bought carbon credits from the Knight project under the government's Climate Active program.
It's really important for us as an organisation to be doing our part. It's very important to our people that we're taking action on reducing emissions.
What's your reaction to what you've learned?
We bought these carbon credits in good faith, based on the accreditation and the verification that we saw. And anything that raises concerns about whether they're having the impact that they were going to have, yeah, that's a worry. But it's really made us think about the credits that we're going to buy into the future.
That's the other side of it.
Australian Mutual Bank also bought carbon credits from the Knight project to become carbon neutral.
It's the right thing to do. And we need to have faith in the process. We need to have faith in the projects, in the legitimacy of and the integrity of the projects that we're buying into. We are very disappointed that logging is occurring. It's a project that's supposed to prevent deforestation.
There's no way the bank would have bought the carbon credits had it known about the logging.
How do you feel about the fact that you're only just finding out about it?
We should be informed. These are financial transactions in one form or another.
Knight's found out that we've been talking to businesses that bought its carbon credits. It's accused us of leaking non-public information by telling them about the logging. The Opera House, another customer, told us it's working on cutting its emissions and relying less on carbon credits. Back on New Island, it's the morning school assembly, and the kids are in fine voice. The promise of carbon credits is to lift the coming generation out of poverty and save the rainforest, while helping avoid devastating climate change. But there's a long way to go before that promise is delivered, if it is at all.